In the studio, here he comes. How you doing, man?
Thanks.
Graham, have a seat.
Cheers.
So here we have, and I've been trying this all day, and you're gonna have to correct me if I'm wrong. So we'll get you set up. This is how I think it's pronounced. Shahzaib Zulfiqar.
Yeah, that's perfect.
There you go, man. How good was that?
That's awesome.
How good was that? I was worried I was going to get that wrong on air.
Yeah.
Jambro, we're going into the world of music today.
Yes, thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure being here.
Awesome having you here. Are you a musician yourself?
Yes, I am. I don't like calling myself a musician compared to the rest of the guys in my team.
Really?
But yeah, I play the guitar. I partially, and I am a songwriter. So
you have a songwriter?
I rap basically.
Well, you're dressed for the occasion, man. What kind of rap?
So, well, it's all kinds actually. But it's more about like telling stories and something that's more about storytelling, I guess.
I like that. This is the place to tell stories. So, do you freestyle?
Well, I hope not right now, but yeah, that's what I try to do.
You didn't realize. I wanted you to step out. I was going to give you a random word to freestyle. Is that too hard?
Yeah, that would be too hard.
So, interested about your musical background yourself, because we're going to talk about music. We're going to talk about the challenges facing musicians and venues, right?
Yep.
With Jambro. You play guitar, you rap, you write songs.
Yeah.
And where would we be able to, do you have, would people know you? Would they know you like from,
me?
like in the public? Would I?
Well, not me, but we have a team. So we're like 5 guys who co-founded this, and all of us are musicians in some form or the other, and one of us, Jasser, he's actually the main musician,
right?
And people would definitely know him within their capacity. But I think the biggest challenge with musicians right now is getting the access to an audience and really getting the platform to really build, meet other musicians as well and collaborate with other musicians.
So what's changed? I mean, let's go back a little bit in the world of music, because it has really evolved. I mean, how old are you now? I'm 46, so I can
33.
33, okay. So I'm 46. I grew up in a world of tapes, right?
Yeah.
Tapes and vinyl and all that. And we listened to the radio, and we listened to the DJs tell us what the 10 most important songs of the week were, right?
Yeah.
So we grew up with all of that. And then it got digitized, and everybody said that music was going to die.
Yeah.
And it didn't. It came back. And what kind of died was the music record label model, right?
Yep.
But what people realized, that the most important thing about the whole of the music scene was the events and getting the community together. And we realized actually music was about connection.
Absolutely.
And as sort of the money in recording music was disappearing, the money in live events was just going up and up and up, right?
Yep.
And people were paying like hundreds, and even now these days thousands to go to events.
Absolutely.
So what's going on? What is happening these days as a musician? Tell us a little bit about what the music industry is and what the challenges are.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, definitely the biggest innovation in the recent past that's happened is that the way that music is distributed has evolved. Streaming is the biggest space where startups and companies have grown, whether it's Spotify, whether it's SoundCloud. But yeah, I think that is really what's driven the whole movement on how music is evolving as well, right? As back in the 60s, where there would be like a 60-man orchestra playing behind the Beatles. Now music is tending to become more two-dimensional, which is losing its I would say the soul in it. And so I think the way that the audience is kind of the audience that is being tapped with this new distribution channel is a lot more commercial, and musicians barely get an opportunity to really target and reach out to enthusiasts, people who really dig music, right? Yeah. So yes, of course, the overall music as an art form is also evolving. It's losing its art, which is where I feel that the live space is definitely, it's important to really push that, and it's really important to kind of like nourish that. So because live is where the magic really is, and
Absolutely.
I think when you kind of bring musicians together, whether they've rehearsed or whether it's just an improvised thing that they're doing, what they create is something that you can never experience by streaming music, right?
Absolutely. You mentioned the key word magic, right? I mean, it's like, why are we doing this live now? It's because it could all go horribly wrong.
Yep.
And it could, as I said, it could all go horribly right.
Yeah.
Is that I think the reason people like live, the experience obviously and the connection with people, but the fact is it's something unique, and you don't know what's going to happen next, right? You know, it's not pre-recorded, therefore it's not sanitized. And there'll be bits where, like, you know, the jack line falls out of the guitar and the amp goes off and all those kind of things. But that's what people want, isn't it? Because when you do nail it, that's the magic.
Exactly. And I think it, you know, when you have that experience and when you're feeding off the energy of the musicians that are around with you on stage, as well as the audience who's listening and vice versa, I think that experience is something which is truly different, unique, and I mean, that is really where we see the future of music to be headed.
Yep.
And I think it's about time that there's a dire need to bring the musicality back in music, basically. And that's what Jambro has really said to do it.
Before we get there, I want to have a look at some of your music.
Yeah, for sure.
Can we do that?
Yeah. So we've got a YouTube channel. I think.
I mean, you personally, Shahzaib Zulfiqar.
Actually,
no.
You
don't want to put it out there.
Yeah.
All right, so the listeners can go. Yeah. Are you embarrassed by it?
No, I think. I mean, it's kind of like a acquired politically inclined taste. So I would prefer not to.
We're in Singapore, right? Okay, so fair enough. Okay, cool. But it's hip hop.
It's hip hop. It's hip hop basically, mostly.
Okay. What about one of your team members?
Yeah. So we've got absolutely. So we've got actually, you could just put on one of our jams on YouTube, because we've got like a lot of video content that we've produced from our events. We've been hosting events since the past year and a half.
So what am I searching for?
So just Jambro.
Jambro.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do this live. This is the fun. There we go. Is this you?
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh yeah, you've got the cap. That's your cap. Oh, right.
Yeah,
nice.
No, not that. Not the first one. It's actually, I would say, you could put on any of these.
Popular uploads.
Yeah.
So one of these? Oh, you got it? Mughal e Jam 2.
Yeah, that's cool.
Let's get the music up. Let's get the mic on that. Jamathon.
Yeah, it's a series of jams that we would do. Like, we would partner with event venues and do this whole stream of jams.
What's Lahore like as a gig venue?
No, so Lahore is one of the biggest cities in Pakistan. Yeah. So originally we are all from Pakistan, and we've incorporated out of Singapore to make it really expand and go global. But this is basically a city in Lahore, in Pakistan.
Right. Is there a thriving nightlife scene? Because I mean, if people think of Pakistan, they don't think of like nightlife.
That's true. Yeah. So it is one of the biggest citadels, and they've got.
Let's keep that playing in the background. I like that, but maybe just drop the volume.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah. So it's basically just that is the place where art is. Art is created.
Right.
One of the key places, actually.
Is this your team here in the video?
So one of the guys, the guy playing bass, he's Jasser. He's a co-founder, partner, and these musicians are basically some of the best musicians in Pakistan who just got together, and they're playing for different bands, but then they just got together, and this is a truly improvised, on the spot kind of a thing going on.
No, it's a good vibe as well.
Everything that we have, actually, all the events, we've done a lot of events in Singapore, we've done events in Pakistan, we've done events in other places in the world as well, and we have musicians from over 200 places in the world right now who are hosting and playing in and attending gigs, these live and improvised genre agnostic gigs all around the world.
Cool.
And the common thing about them is that it's all improvised.
Yeah, I like it. Well, let's dive into the model in a minute. But first, just that point, you're all from Pakistan.
Yes.
But you live here in Singapore?
So I've been here for about 6 years.
Right.
I was working here. I've been working.
You were at Unilever, right?
Yeah, I'm working at Unilever as a consumer marketing insight specialist and a marketing strategist. Been part of it for about 10 years. And then one of our other partners has also been based out of here, working at a bank. So, and then there are 3 other guys who are primarily based out of Pakistan. But then we've been part of an accelerator here. It's called Murudi.
Oh, well, I know them very well.
Yeah, it's right.
So Paul and Craig.
Exactly. So Amra, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So no, it's fine. Let's keep it rolling. We've just got a bit of whir in the background. We take that microphone off. So the microphone's on the. There you go. It's all right. It's live, man.
Yeah.
So you. This is the interesting thing about you, and I was trying to work it out. Is that you work for Unilever and you have a startup?
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
so I'm more of like a yeah. I'm basically working 24 hours a
Yeah.
day.
So how does that work? Are they cool with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I mean, to be honest, I've been part of Unilever for a very long time. There's definitely no conflict of interest because what I do is working on brands and I work on the beverages, refreshments category. And this is really a passion space where they're very like open and supportive of, pursuing, getting their employees to pursue passion areas. I've been involved in things throughout, over the course of time. I build motorcycles on the side as well. So that
What do you mean on the side? Where do you get the time to do
It's more of like a passion. So I build, I take projects, I do it for myself, and then I end up like, joining committees and really selling off my bikes in the end of the day. So yeah, I've always been involved in something or the other. And this, of course, has gone bigger, way bigger than the other things that I've been involved in. But yeah, so I'm primarily working a day job. And then we have a team, a sizable team, so we don't really need me to be involved 24/7, basically.
Well, what does it take to make that work? Because I'm sure listeners, viewers might be thinking, wait, I can have a startup and a day job?
Yeah.
And that's sort of like, I can have my cake and I can eat it? Because I can imagine that could not work in many cases, right?
Yeah.
Where the stars aren't in alignment. What does it take to make that sort of ideal situation work?
To be honest, I think the most important thing is the team that you have, right? I mean, in the end of the day, like I said, it's not just myself. We have a team who is very dedicated and they're like fully committed to working on this full time. So the services and the kind of like involvement that I have is more on a strategic level, more on like figuring out how do we shape up the business models, how do we really kind of position the brand, what is the area that we should be kind of focusing on, whether it's about investment, raising funds, or whether it's about activating the business. So it's more of a consultancy role that I play. And then there's like team players, teams that are, people in my team which are able to kind of really translate that into anything else that's required. So yeah, I think the most important thing is having a team that can really, that's open to the amount of commitment you're able to bring in. It's very rare, I agree. I mean, I know that I'm spending a lot of time of my day not spending time with my family, but spending a lot of time.
Oh, you got a family as well?
I've got a family as well.
And you're doing...
Absolutely. I've got a 2.5-year-old daughter as well. So
wow.
So yeah, so I think it's definitely tough from a timing perspective, but the fact that it is something which I'm really passionate about, I really don't mind. I think I feed off working on it.
Exactly.
Like my energy comes out from there.
Because I'm wondering if you're not working, you'll probably be doing this anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there you go. That's what you do in your spare time. You're sitting around jamming with. I mean, be surrounded by people as well who give you energy rather than take it. Musicians. If you're passionate about music, you feed off each other. You grow each other energy-wise, right?
Yep, absolutely. I think that's really where it is. And so it's also the nature of the startup that you're part of. There is a very deep purpose that we have within Jambro. And I think I've known my partners for a very long time. So we have this natural kind of like connection, and we're able to kind of like work together.
We used
really well.
Jambros before.
Yeah, basically. I mean, so Jasser again is the main musician. He's the original Jambro from Pakistan. To be honest, he's been doing this for years, for decades. To be honest, he's a professional like filmmaker as well, and the CEO, the founder Rashad, who's actually in Pakistan. So these guys are in Pakistan right now doing a festival. They're part of a festival that's happening in the mountains in Pasu, up in north areas of Pakistan. So right now, that's why they're not here. They're basically sitting in the northern part, organizing this festival that we have right now. But basically, Jasser and Rashad, they've been like playing music for eons, ever since they've started playing music, so over a decade. And this thing had always been happening, like this whole getting together to jam and improvise, and that's their niche. That's what they really enjoy doing. And very soon we realized that this is something that resonates with musicians all around the world, and this is exactly what's needed to really further, develop, evolve music and bring it back to what it's supposed to be.
Exactly what it's supposed to be, what it always has been before it kind of took a detour, right?
Absolutely.
Let's have a look at your website, because then we can get a better idea of how Jambro actually works. And I like the fact that it's very simple. Come together to jam. I mean, you're not really messing around. This is very simple, even in the name, isn't it? Jambro.
Yep.
So tell us how this works.
Absolutely. So Jambro essentially is a mobile and web platform that enables musicians to find opportunities to play. Right. So as a musician, if you just can stay on the top, this here. So as to be involved in the Jambro, with Jambro, you can either host a jam along with us. You could perform in a jam as musicians. You could attend a jam as enthusiasts, or you could actually just watch, because we have our Jambro TV. We stream our jams as well, and we have a Jambro radio channel going on as well. So the thing that we're really trying to create is that we're creating these events in partnership with venues and other partners, like brand partners as well, who are keen to kind of like create these immersive live and improvised jams
all authentic, right?
Exactly, they're very authentic, and they happen anywhere. Like it could be at a lounge, at a bedroom, or it could be at up in the mountains or at the beach, right? So these are just some of the feed of events that we've had, and so that's basically the main thing. Our app, what the app does is, at the moment, the app is primarily for musicians. So as a musician, you can actually create your Jambro profile, and you can use that as a means to create some social value by getting lits. Lits is our version of light, right? So you can engage with,
vernacular, right?
Kind of.
If you're not up with it, kids, come on.
That's true. So as you engage with musicians, your fan base, other musicians, you upload your videos, and you get lits, right? And the lit is what gives you the social currency in order for us to assess whether how can you be involved in Jambro, in a Jambro event. And that's really the ticket to be part of a Jambro event, right? So the app is currently focused on curating the musicians and the community, and the web is where we're really piloting and experimenting and figuring out, how do we really model this up.
Great. Can we have a look? Just go back to the website, Barrett, and maybe we can. I want to have a quick explore. Look at some of the events coming up, just as an example. Can we just pick a random event there? Just pick any one of them. We've got one in Singapore.
This is an event that already happened, actually.
Right.
So this is one of
the Hard Rock.
So you could just open up the Great Jam in the Sky. This is the first one. Yeah, right there.
The Great Jam in the Sky.
This is happening right now
in Pasir. This is the one your co-founders again.
Exactly. So this is up in the northern areas of Pakistan.
Wow, right up in the mountains. Karakoram Highway. Are you serious? Is that the address of it? It's actually the Karakoram.
Absolutely, and you will just see.
How cool is that?
It's insane.
You've got to have a number though on the Karakoram Highway. It's like number one or number like 20,000. It's like thousands of kilometers apart, right? Yeah. Can we just have a look at that event then? So what sort of details does it tell us, like who's what sort of how does this start? How does somebody create something like this?
Sure. So there are a couple of models in how a Jambro event can be created or hosted, right? One is a standalone Jambro event, which is basically a live and improvised event that a venue partner can host, or an individual can host in their own space, right? Now, what this is basically it's a Jambro stage integration into a festival. So there's a festival going on, and we have a Jambro stage set up over there. A Jambro stage is basically a stage within a festival where any musician who's attending the festival can just go and jam, because they're instruments and they're like musicians.
They're
just
already there. Yeah,
exactly. And there have been cases in the past where at a music festival there's been a bigger crowd at the Jambro stage than at the main stage. So I think it's definitely something which every festival is keen to, and in future we're still at an early stage and we're still building those partnerships. But I think next year we've got a couple of festivals where we are already lined up to kind of integrate our Jambro stages in. And as a host, you can actually just kind of sign up to host a Jambro event, and you put in your profile, your details. There's a whole form online where you can just put in details of how big the venue is, what is set up like, and basically some information around those lines. And we select whether we're keen to kind of like host in that area or not.
Right.
As a musician, you can look at all the events that are happening, and depending on where you are, so right now it's mostly in Singapore and Pakistan, but eventually it will be all around the world. That's our vision, basically, to make the world a jam stage.
Yeah. Well, that'd be great for traveling musicians.
Yeah, exactly.
Well. So there's a lot of those.
Yeah, that's
and
one of the big
they kind
things.
of feel at home, don't they? I mean, if you're gigging around the world, and you feel out, you know, you're on your own, or if you're in a small group, you can go and hang out with people who are really passionate about this.
Absolutely. And I think that's really one of the big areas, because imagine someone from Australia who's going to Turkey and they just want to kind of like meet the musicians who play Turkish instruments.
Yeah,
they can just go on Jambro and find a Darbuka player, or find like some musician and just jam with them. And it's a completely different experience for that individual flying from Australia, who could probably never expect to get that experience.
Yeah, totally. That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, if I was a guitar player, a guitar musician, I would love to I'd go to India or Pakistan and like hang out with people playing the tabla. Yeah. And, you know, all those
the
kind
sitar.
of like the star or the pankawaj, whatever, you know, and then go somewhere like even Southeast Asia, like with the gamelan players, like, and just learn their craft and just hang out with them. Absolutely. It's an amazing experience.
Yep. So that's really the idea, is about bringing, like, enabling musicians to connect with other musicians, like-minded musicians all around the world. And 95% of the musicians, well, this is an estimate, but they're undiscovered. And they're either musicians who just never got an opportunity or a platform to really showcase what they're worth, or they've just given up music because it was a hobby and now they're getting bogged down with other stuff, right? So this is really kind of like giving an uprising to everyone who's passionate about music, who really wants to kind of just pursue this as a passion or as, you know, something on the side as well. But even for professionals who are looking for collaborating with other musicians anywhere in the world.
Right. And where's the money in this?
So the money, that's a good question. So there are actually a couple of areas. So the way that we look at ourselves is that the space that we play in is that our competitive landscape pans across social networks and marketplaces, right? What we're really forming is a whole ecosystem around this experience that we're creating. So there are a couple of revenue streams. At this early stage, it's primarily based on brand sponsorships, because we're getting brands to really partner with us to host these events. Then there are ticket sales involved in future as well. And then there are commissions for any exchange of value that happens between the community through Jambro, right? So the focus at the first 12 months actually is to focus to get the events kicked off, which is really going to be based on the partnerships that we create. Moving forward, there are other revenue streams like merchandise.
That cap.
Yeah, that cap is actually, it's one-off.
How is it?
Example,
It's worth money.
But I think basically merchandise is a big area, because even for the biggest record labels right now, close to 1/3 of their business is merchandise. Yeah. And that's going to be definitely an area that we want to pursue and explore, because Jambro is just a cool name that, you know, it's a brand that's being created, which people just want to be involved in some way or the other, right? And then there are others like tab sharing with venues. So most of the revenue streams are primarily around the events that we host. In future, we also plan to kind of integrate marketplace, exchange of instruments, selling instruments, etc. And any, like, for example, if someone's hosting their event, they can create or they can sell their tickets over there as well. It's basically going to be a whole market network that it will evolve into. Right. And the revenue is going to be commission based primarily, but as well as events that we're going to host, which will drive for a lot of revenue as well.
I can see on the sponsorship side, on the corporate side, brands like Red Bull, Monster Energy, these are the ones that want that kind of real grassroots, authentic movement that they can be part of at an early stage. Yeah.
So, you know, Red Bull, we're already partnering with. So in Pakistan, actually, we've already had a partnership with Red Bull. Right. But you'll be surprised that, you know, Uber is actually one of the biggest investors in, sponsors of live music events around the world. And there are a lot of brands. And I think for us, there is a gamble between, you know, focusing on getting brand sponsorships because, or getting it crowdsourced. Because the whole thing about us that we realize right now is that the authenticity that we have right now comes from, with the musicians at least, it comes from the fact that, you know, we're not sellouts, right? So I think that's very key that we find the right partners, partners that really want are there to kind of you know, build the vision that we have as well, which is all about really kind of building the community and helping the industry really.
Yeah. So, well, that depends partner by partner, doesn't it? That you're going to have. I mean, Red Bull would be great in the sense that they do support music already.
Yeah,
You got
absolutely.
Red Bull Music Academy, for example, and
Yes.
they're quite big in Pakistan as well.
They are, yeah.
And they're probably one of the partners who would just kind of let you get on with it and just, we're happy to be here. Whereas you may have another company, could be mobile operator or handset manufacturer, said, you know, this jam is brought to you by this company.
Absolutely.
You don't kind of, you know, all the banners and stuff like that. You don't want that, do you?
Yeah, exactly. So it's very tricky, right? I mean, the way that the brands work with us, there are lots of offerings that we could potentially have with brands. Because, like I said, that it's not just the events. There are actually all of our events are being recorded professionally. So there is a whole stream of events and content that we're creating. So there is content integration that's also an opportunity for brands that could exist, right? And this is really what we are piloting and experimenting at this stage.
Yeah, there's a big push now into native advertising, which is, and I saw this, and it's slightly off tangent, but it sort of explains the point, is that there is a very popular YouTube channel run by a guy who drives an Uber car, who's an Uber driver, and he's got about 2 million followers. Well, he gets 2 million views. I'm not sure which is right. But it's big anyway, for somebody that just drives around. And here's the interesting thing, right? Here are the parallels, that it's just conversations. So it's raw, authentic, and it's unedited, like your jams. Anything can happen. So anybody that gets into the car, anything can happen. It could be like, you know, the drunk party goers. It could be, you know, like the housewife. It could be anything.
Yeah.
So people watch it for that, because anything can happen in the next half an hour. Just like you're watching a jam, anything can happen. And so people get hooked on this content because it's just interesting, and it's human, and it's raw, and it's not what we're used to, which is this very sort of gamed algorithm type content which is coming out now. And he has a native advertising sponsor, which is a hot sauce company, right? And the hot sauce company, you know, they could say, hey, look, you know, I want you to hold up the hot sauce and say, and this drive is brought to you by hot sauce, whatever. But it doesn't. He just gives them bottles of hot sauce, and they give him the money to do this. And what it naturally comes out. So student walks into the Uber cab, and she happens to be eating a pizza whilst they're driving, and they're talking away. And the driver turns around and he said, oh, do you like hot sauce? Do you want some hot sauce with that pizza? And they try it. And afterwards he says, oh, by the way, they're my sponsor. And he's like, no way. This is like, you know, all part of the whole thing. You know, how much would a sponsor pay for something like that? And I think about what you're doing is that you're offering something really authentic, which advertisers want a part of. And the challenge then is doing that in a way which doesn't compromise the principles of the authenticity of the musicians. But you're in a really interesting space with that.
I agree 200% what you say, and this is exactly the way that we look at it as well. Which is why I think being selective with partners that really share the values and the purpose, and they really see the value that we're bringing. I think that's key. Because as we scale up and as we get more people on the platform, I think the avenues for brand sponsorships just opens up. But I think we're consciously being selective at this stage, and I think that's something that's appreciated by the community as well as by other partners, meaningful partners who would like to be part of this experience as well. So,
yeah, I mean, it takes longer, but ultimately it's more valuable. You're more concentrated, isn't it? So you went through Murudi. You went through the accelerator program, successfully exited from not the right word to use, successfully graduated from that. And where are you now? Are you fundraising?
Our journey really started where we as founders bootstrapped initially, and as we got into before we got into Murudi, we raised some safe funds using the safe instrument from friends and family. And then we got selected as a top 10 high potential startups in Southeast Asia by Murudi, and we are part of that program, 6-month program, and we just graduated in February. And ever since we've further raised for more funds, again with SAFE. But now at this stage we're in a position where we really want to scale up because we've got a model that's running. We've refined our proposition and what we really want to own, really want to stand for a lot better. And I think the opportunities that for us to grow are immense. The demand is way higher than what we can do, which is why I think now at this stage we're in a position to also consider seed funding, and our goal really is to raise our first seed within this year. But we're still kind of raising through SAFE as a bridge fund.
Right. Okay. And how much are you raising?
So we're raising for a seed, it's actually anywhere from $500,000 USD. Our SAFE funding is at a minimum of $25,000 per ticket. Ticket is what I don't know if that's the common terminology.
Yeah, that's the entry point, right?
Yeah, that's the entry point. But we're trying to raise within about $500,000 is what we are targeting.
And what would $500,000 get you as a company and the investors?
Yeah,
we don't have to say percentages, but in a sense, what will that fund?
Yeah, so there are two key elements of it. One of it is just really further development of our platform to really make this what we're trying to do in terms of the events and the development is going to help us scale the events on a global level. So that's one part of it, and the other part that we're really trying to also explore is we're exploring blockchain, because blockchain is something which is probably the biggest innovation within the music industry after streaming services. It fits in very well into what we're trying to do, because it enables us to decentralize everything that we're doing, and also incentivize everyone who's involved within the ecosystem. Because like I said, that there are multiple stakeholders that are involved. This is of course still being explored, at this stage. But that's really a space where we have seen some very good use cases, similar platforms leverage this technology.
Right. How do you use blockchain for music?
So one thing is that of course the whole idea of blockchain is to kind of be able to decentralize and incentivize anyone who's involved through our ICU offering, right? And that's an area where we're still scoping out, to be honest, and we're discussing and speaking to a lot of partners to really figure out what is the best way to kind of integrate or develop our blockchain platform. But there are two reasons for it. One is, of course, it helps us really raise the funding that's required to make this go global. Fundraising in the music space or music startup space is probably the most difficult challenge, because it's heavily, there's it's a messy world of licensing and rights ownership that everyone wants to steer away from. And what we are offering is something which is very different. And I think, having said that, because of the nuance, because of how music startups are generally seen as by institutional investors, typically, it is a difficult space to kind of raise traditionally, right? So we really kind of are exploring blockchain to be able to, number one, be able to raise a significant chunk that will help us crowdsource and scale the movement on a global level. And second is that there is definitely a very good utility of the platform of the technology, because there is an exchange of value that's happening within our platform. And whether it's incentivizing someone for being part of it, a musician being performing at a gig, a host organizing a gig, or people just kind of volunteering, right? That incentive can then be redeemable for anything that you can get out of the platform, whether it's ticket sales, whether it's merchandise, whether it's instruments, or anything that you can buy off the coin offering, basically.
Got it. Okay, that's all to come.
Yeah, and that's definitely all to come. And it's like I said, that is very early stage.
Exploring
to be honest, it. Yeah, we're exploring it. It's not really the core, but the whole idea, really, the main reason of funding at this stage is to further develop our platform and get us to a stage where we can scale in regions and markets beyond Southeast Asia and South Asia.
Got it. And your team itself, I know you mentioned you have the 5 co-founders.
Yeah.
And are you recruiting at the moment? Are you looking for new people?
The way that we work is that we've got a team of developers that are in-house as well.
Right.
And that is really where the focus is, because everything else that's required for us to really grow, whether it's anything involved in community engagement, there is a volunteer program that we have, which is called the Jambassador program. So we've got musicians who are willing to kind of be part of it and partner with us to really help us host these events and in areas where even we're not there, right? So we're really leveraging that community to as volunteers at this stage. Definitely, as we grow, the area that we really need support and we would be hiring for is the right marketing right? Social management, social media management is definitely an area where we're doing it by ourselves, and it bogs us down quite a lot, of course. And as a startup, I mean, that's always the case, right? You start doing everything. So that's definitely an area where we want to further build a team around. And I think even within the within the developer space, there's a lot of opportunity for us to hire, but not hiring at the moment. I think right now we're just really maximizing on what we have.
But let's say you were talking now to somebody who was passionate about music and startups and maybe even blockchain, or you know, now listening or watching this live, and they're getting excited about what you're doing. They maybe jam themselves. Maybe they're not a musician, but just passionate about the space. Maybe they're an event organizer, or maybe there's a venue organizer or something. They want to reach out to you. I'm going to ask you how they do that in a minute, but are there people that you would like to hear from? Are there sort of potential partners in that space who might not be sponsors in this case, but they may have something that they could bring, or skills or ideas, or be able to open up doors for you? What in particular are you looking for?
I love that question, because definitely we're I mean, we know that we're not gonna make it with any traditional investor or anyone who is generally in the tech space or in the startup space, because we are a very different kind of a startup. What we're really looking for is brand connections, brand partnerships that really get what we're doing, that support music. That's definitely one of the big ones. Investors, there are selective investors who invest in music. Because of this, like I said earlier, that because music is such a underserved or underinvested space in the startup world, there are now specific accelerators being created, like Medium Labs. Actually, there is an Abbey Road Studios accelerator that just got created as well. There's Techstar which is another accelerator. So there are lots of accelerators that are being created that are focused on music, and that's really where the focus for us is. That we're really trying to kind of tap into that, apply for those, and get into one of those, because that will allow us to connect with the right investors, right? Because that's the ecosystem that we really want to be connected with. And I think anyone who really is involved, we are a community-based platform. So anyone, whether you're a musician or just an enthusiast and would like to kind of hear more about us, I would love to get in touch with them and just work out how we could potentially work together. Because whether it's like an event venue, whether it's a bigger kind of an company like Hard Rock Cafe that has multiple events around the world and host gigs, or whether it's a brand like Red Bull, we do have a partnership with Red Bull in Pakistan, but not globally, right? Yeah. So it could be anything. Yeah.
Awesome. And how do they reach out to you?
So actually, we have. I think I can probably just spell out the email address.
Well, I mean, I can put it all in the show notes, but just what's the format? What's the easiest way? Because sometimes people say, okay, like I want to reach out to them and I'll tweet them. But, like, for example, me, my Twitter game is pretty poor. So Twitter's not the best way to get in touch with me. LinkedIn works for me.
Okay.
What are the channels?
So for us, Instagram and Facebook is one of the key two key channels where we operate. We have a lot of activity on that, and we are pretty responsive on that. I think that would be a good platform. Actually, just going on jambro.co and finding the contact us link over there works, because that's definitely a space where people should check out if you're interested to learn more about it. Then there is, of course, I can share the link of the CEO. I think you can just write to the CEO, Rishad.
Sure.
It's rishad@jambro.co.
Excellent.
RISHAD.
We'll put all the details in the show notes, and yourself as well, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. So
especially if they're into motorbikes.
Yeah. Absolutely, why not? I mean, I'm not doing that for the part time, because I'm not getting time. But
exactly. Why not? Shared passions. And this is fascinating. And Shahzaib, Zulfiqar, it's been a real pleasure.
Thank you.
Having you on the show, and wish you all the best with Jambro and the story and the journey as it unfolds, and as you go global as well. And you're tapping into a market which is truly global. Yeah. There are musicians everywhere, and people who are passionate about musicians and want to be part of that scene. And, that whole live space as well is only going to grow from here as we become more and more this, people want more and more of the analog, right, which is the real world. and just creating platforms for people to do that. And it's interesting because every we've done 3 shows today, and even just before yourself, Eric Chong, who is the co-founder of Park and Parcel here in Singapore. And it's just interesting that, those startups that really, address the pain points that are out there are the ones that sort of unlock this potential which is already there, in the sense that, the way Grab came in or Airbnb came in and said, this stuff exists already. It's just that people can't get access to it. And it's like, I want to stay in this place and this person has a room in their house, but there's no way of matching all this up together. And it's like with yourself, you're building this marketplace where people have this passion. There are venues. Let's bring all these people together, right?
Yeah, that's really what it is. I mean, I think there is, again, when you're there, then you're like, that's I thought about this like 10 years ago or 5 years ago, and we're like, yeah, that's great. You should have done it.
Right, so exactly.
I think it becomes very obvious. It becomes like, oh, that should have just happened a long time ago. But so we've gladly, luckily, reached that position right now where I think we're much sharper. We're really sharp on what we're gunning for, which is all about improvisation, live music, and bringing the community together, because music has the power to bring people together. And I think that's really where...
Exactly. It's on your website, Come Together.
Exactly.
So like the song.
Yeah.
There you go. That's a great start. So when's your next gig yourself? Are you jamming? Personally?
So we've got gigs going on pretty much every other week, whether it's in Pakistan, whether it's in Singapore. We're starting Hong Kong and Dubai and Sri Lanka soon as well. It all depends on, where we are able to find the community and the partners to make this happen. And I think, as an ask, it would be great if anyone's interested to kind of like share any contacts or even like be involved yourself. So the next one that we're trying to do in Singapore is around September. And I can share some more details because it's still being worked out, and we're not sure if it's really going to turn around in that quickly.
Well,
but
what's the vibe? What's it going to be about?
So we're trying to basically have an exchange of musicians between Pakistan and Sri Lanka and Singapore. So there is a festival that we're trying to kind of partner with in Singapore, the Sultan Gate Festival on Arab Street, where we're trying to get some musicians from Pakistan to be part of that. And the format is just going to be the same, which is all about getting musicians from different parts of the world to get together and just figure themselves out like right there and right then. Right?
Yeah. But that they can do, right?
Exactly.
They're capable. That's the jamming bar.
That's the thing about music, right? It's the universal language, and it doesn't take long for a musician to just get the vibe and really just go with the flow, right? And that's what like blues, hip hop, jazz, everything is kind of like built around that, right? I think Hard Rock Cafe is a partnership that we will pursue further as well. So if you're in Singapore, just watch the space, find out when the next gig is happening, and come down, because some of the best musicians from Singapore as well as from other parts of the world would be there, just jamming it out. And it's an experience that you will never forget, for sure. It's very exclusive. It's something that only you will see for just one time, and maybe you can see the video later on, but then, to be honest, like when you're there and when you really feel the energy of the musicians and the whole vibe, it's a different experience altogether. I don't even know what to say about it. Like, it's the magic, right?
It is, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. No, you summed it up really well. Shahzaib, it's been a real pleasure having you on the show. And
it was a pleasure being here.
Yeah, and before you go, we want you to sign our studio.
Sure.
So I know you probably do this as a musician. Now I'm asking you to do this as a co-founder and as a startup founder. So our studio is 2 months old, and we want all the startups that come through the doors and share their stories with us to sign the wall of fame.
Great.
Because when you're famous, that'll be worth a lot of money. So.
Absolutely great.
So really enjoyed having you on the show, and I love what you're doing, and I'll look out for this gig as well in September, because I'm not a musician, but I absolutely love music, and I'm passionate about music, and it's something I've never been a master in my life, but I just that moment when you're in the zone with those musicians and they just they're just jamming, and people talk about flow, that space when you're in it, and like everything just kind of like, I don't know how you describe it. Everything gets kind of blurred out, and you're just in that moment, and you're watching somebody doing something, at the top of their craft or whatever it is, whether they're playing a tabla or guitar or whatever. Love that.
Yeah.
So September, keep me in the loop.
Yeah, absolutely, I will, definitely. But thank you for having me over, and we'll keep in touch for sure.
Awesome.
Right.
Shahzaib, take care. Reach across, man. You need we need longer arms for that move. So yeah, that's Shahzaib Zulfiqar, everybody. We'll put all the details in the show notes. He's going to sign our wall, and wish him all the best. And hopefully you'll be back on at some point in the future, right? And share your journey with us. All the best. All the best with the fundraise as well, ongoing.